Investigative journalist Barry Levine is the author of The Spider, Inside the Criminal Web of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And he joins me now from New York. Barry, good to have you with us early in the morning where you are. So we just heard the Attorney General there saying that the client files were on her desk. That was in February, and that the Biden administration had sat on the Epstein files. But now the Justice Department says it doesn't exist. So, Barry, who's lying and who's telling the truth here?
Well, that is, the million-dollar question. The Trump administration said, came out and said, we're going to have, transparency for all Americans. We're going to release the files on the JFK assassination, the Martin Luther King assassination, and we're going to release all these documents on the Jeffrey Epstein case. So some months back, they brought a lot of conservative influencers to the White House. They made a lot of fanfare. They presented them with these binders saying phase one of the Epstein files. As it turned out, some months back, all that information that they released was not new. It was all public information that had to do with some of the telephone logs and other things. Then Bondi came out and said, we have a client list. We have 10,000 hours of videotapes. We're going to release all of that. And then over our 4th of July weekend here in America, they issued on a Sunday night, on a holiday weekend, a 2-page memo that basically said, we've concluded that there is no client list. We've concluded that Jeffrey Epstein took his life behind bars. The videos will not be released except for one videotape showing him in jail. The fact that no one walked to his cell to show that he had taken his life without the assistance of any individual. And everyone was left here saying, what's going on? Where's all this material? And we still don't know why they are covering this up now. It's now an even bigger cover-up because they had promised America that we would see all of, complete transparency and that we would see thousands and thousands of pages of documents. So we're not getting anything.
Yeah, so at this point, then the DOJ also says it won't be releasing any more Epstein files publicly. But would this put an end to the saga in any way from his sex trafficking clients that were there and the theories that surround Jeffrey Epstein's death, which is officially ruled a suicide?
For the conspiracy theorists who believe that Jeffrey Epstein was killed behind bars because he had connections to all of these rich and famous and powerful individuals, and the fact that there are, men walking the streets not only of America but across the world who he had trafficked some of his victims to, it's now an even bigger controversy. It's now an even bigger scandal than it was going to be because with all this fanfare, they said that they were going to release all this material, and now they're not releasing anything. So, it is troubling, particularly not only to the investigators like myself who have followed this case for many years, but more importantly for the victims. There's 250 women out there that were sexually abused by him, and they also want answers, beyond, what they've been told by their lawyers and by police officials. They want to look at the files themselves. They want to dig for answers to the questions they have, and it's absolutely horrific that they're victimizing these women, not only after they've been through so much, but they're victimizing them again in a sense because they're cheating them out of learning everything that happened in this particular case.
Yes. So, Barry, what do you believe, perhaps, what do you believe? You've been investigating this for many years. Do you believe there is a client list?
I don't think there's an actual list per se that Jeffrey Epstein or his associate Ghislaine Maxwell, who is the only other individual who was convicted in this case, and she's serving a 20-year sentence behind bars for grooming women and trafficking them to Jeffrey Epstein. I don't believe that either Epstein or Maxwell created an actual list of individuals, but we know for a fact that there are individuals. And if you go through the files, you can pluck off different names and create a database of individuals that should be investigated. We do know that Virginia Roberts Giuffre, his primary accuser, who sadly took her life recently, had accused more than a half dozen men of saying that Epstein had trafficked her out to these individuals, including a member of the royal family, including a senator in America, a former governor, an MIT scientist, a prominent lawyer. All the individuals that she had named many years back, they have all denied their involvement with Epstein and the fact that they acknowledged knowing him, but they denied having sexual relations with Virginia Roberts Giuffre. Sadly, 3 of them have died, including Roberts herself. 2 others died of accidental drug overdoses. So even though these crimes took place years back, for many of these women, they're still suffering today. It's still very difficult for them to put this in the past. And this latest chapter now of where the government came out and promised all this material and now is not going forward with releasing any information is, even more upsetting, I think, for the victims.
Yes, and so do you think that this backflip by the DOJ and the FBI may have any implications for Ghislaine Maxwell? As you mentioned earlier, she is currently serving a 20-year term for her role in the scheme to sexually exploit and abuse multiple minor girls with Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, when they prosecuted her here in New York, they had 4 women who had been victimized for her testify directly on the fact that they were groomed and then sexually abused. I think that the case they presented was that the prosecutors presented against her was very airtight, and she was convicted. However, now her lawyers, I'm sure, are looking at all of these mixed signals from the government and looking in some way to possibly go in front of a judge and file an appeal saying, well, there may be information in those files or in those videotapes that possibly could exonerate her in some way. So I think they may attempt to use this in an effort to engineer some type of appeal or release from the sentence that she's currently serving down in Florida.
Yes, no doubt that there will not be an end at any time soon with this Epstein saga. Barry Levine, really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.